So I was just having a great conversation with a friend of mine who's actually a relative of that friend, but we became friends through that friendship. And I think that's beautiful because that is alignment. And you can really feel that, like, when you jive with someone or when you just don't, or you can kind of tell if the relationship A is going to work, or B, depending on how it works, roughly its longevity, length, lifespan to a point. So that's why they say, like, it's really rare for people to have cradle to grave friends or grade school to like elderly friends. That's very rare. You might get one, you might get two. Some people might have a handful, but for the most part, our friends and our friend groups and all these things, they evolve and they change throughout time as we evolve and change. And that kind of sheds the light on, every relationship that you have is just you meeting you in a different aspect or a different dimension or a different, or a mirroring, so that you can come together and learn and experience life with each other, for our own personal souls, um, highest good, right? For our growth. Um, so the reason I wanted to share a piece of the conversation that she and I had, because our conversation was really a lot of talk on 2-3 different types of relationships, and a lot about a relationship with self by proxy of these other relationships. And at the end of the day, near the end of the conversation, my beautiful friend said, she's like, well, I'm this old, so if I haven't gotten it by this time, like, what's up with that? Like, as in, a person should know exactly everything about life or what life is all about, like, at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60, at 70, at 80, you know what I mean? And I had to kind of like sit in that for a moment and be like, but you don't know until you know. You don't know about things until you actually get into that space. So yesterday being Mother's Day, I came across a reel or a video or whatever of this beautiful lady sharing her experience of how much she loved being a mother to her little one, and that, if it wasn't for this little one, she would not be a mother, because that's just how it works, right? And how the experience of becoming a mother took her out of her maiden space. And then that just kind of like threw, clickety clackety click in my brain, as in, yeah, like, when you're a kid, a little elementary school kid, you don't know the workings of a teenager. Like, we can observe them and we think they're silly, and sometimes we want to be like them because they seem so cool and stuff, but until you get into that space of being a teenager, until you're like 16 and feeling the feels of these hormonal things for the first time, these chemical reactions that are just happening and turning on in your body for the first time, you don't actually know that experience, right? So you have to get there to experience it, to learn it, to have had the experience, so that you can say, yeah, okay, I did that. I know that aspect of life, and that is something that I can speak on or preach on or teach on or whatever, because I have been there and I have gone through that. And I have met other people in that same space, because usually when you're in whatever space, you will be in that space with other people going through that experience. Like, if you are experiencing an illness that requires frequent treatment, you're going to find yourself in a treatment space with other people receiving the same kind of treatments or different types of treatments for whatever ails them. You know what I mean? The point is, we are all ailing from something, and we are all in the same space trying to heal from this thing. So, like, that is the common ground we can meet on and learn from each other and grow that experience, right? So, and it never stops and it never ends until we stop or we end, as in. So it doesn't matter if you're 70. I've got a couple of my friends in their older ages, and one of them just moved from an apartment to the old folks place, or the lodge, or whatever you want to call it. We like to call it the resort because it is pretty fly. And that journey in itself, the journey of what my friend had to do to compress a lifetime's worth of things and memories into, a hanky on a stick to take into, going from a 2-3 bedroom place to a 1 bedroom, not even 1 bedroom, just to a room. You know what I mean? So like that in itself is a journey. And the fact that my friend has been so fiercely independent her entire life and so good and so skilled at certain things like, sewing and skating and, many, 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 many things, to all of a sudden be put into a place where you not only feel or seem restricted in yourself, but you're observing other people slightly being restricted in the spaces where we were once not so restricted. So because she was independent and she lived alone and and now she's in this space that she has to share with other people, and it's kind of almost like high school over again, but in a different way because we're older. Like, how would she have known to be prepared? How do you prepare for that, firstly, other than like what we did, which was a few weeks before the transitional stage started, we went in and we looked at the place and kind of observed something for a small period of time. I think it was like she visited maybe 2 or 3 times, total of like maybe an hour out of the 3 times together, spent at that new place observing and taking things in. So even in that in itself, yes, was that first dipping your toe in, but it's really not the full-on experience until you get up in there, and then you have the experience that you have. And sometimes when we're thrown into spaces that we weren't ready for, it could take us a very long time to accept that we're here. And point to that being like, I had shared that I've been in this one town for 10 years. I feel like I was forced into it. And honestly, today it just kind of clicked. Like, maybe that's why things were so, because you fought being here. You never accepted that this was home. You never accepted this as the space. Like, there was always a part of you that was like, oh, I'm gonna leave, or one day, or you know what I mean. And I mean, eventually one day the plan is to move forward. However, what if I was meant to be in this space for that time period? Because things don't happen unless they need to happen, right? In order to learn certain things and have certain experiences and meet certain people, so that I can take those stepping stones to get to where I want to be / need to be / my highest good, right? Sometimes you have to face the storm like a buffalo, or sometimes you have to trudge through a bunch of shit smelling places in order to get to a more stable space where you can unpack and find peace and grow. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share this piece, or share all of this space, as in, like, don't beat yourself up too hard for not, I don't know, like, when it comes to this linear life thing, like me being my age and I was like, oh, but I don't have this and I don't have, like, get your shit together, put it all together, put it in a bag, get it together, right? But like, what is that you want to get together, and why is it that you want that together? Like, those are spaces to look into to help you move more aligned and flowy with your actual path, than to just kind of like force your way through things, control your way through things that are like not accept certain aspects and spaces of your life that are actually showing up in that way, regardless if you want them there or not. They're there. So today I had this really fun feeling about like, oh, I think I accept that I'm here now. It took 10 years to do it, but I accept that I'm here now. And there's a lot of things that happened in this 10 years that I'm still working on trying to accept, but that's okay. It'll come in time as it needs to. What I need to know and what I need to focus on is the here, is the now, and all the great things that are happening in the here and now, regardless the BS. So like yesterday, again, a really hard, heavy day for me personally. Mother's Day has always been a hard, heavy day for me this last few years, or handful of years, for my own reasons, and I've been working through them. But yesterday was another triggering moment, but I wasn't going to let it eat me. I wasn't going to let it have me. I let it have me for 2.5, 3 hours, 4 tops out of the whole day. So out of like the 12 hours that I'm awake, and it happened to be like the first 4 hours that I was awake, crap went down, feelings came up, thought processes happened, but then cooler heads prevailed and I was able to show up in a space that, although I was still feeling the way I was feeling, I was still able to not allow those feelings like put me back into my bed or cry about it all day or whatever. I was able to carry the feelings that I was feeling, soothe them as best I could, and then find spaces that worked better. As in, the thing that happened in the first 4 hours, I let that be, but then I offered an invitation to a space that felt awkward and was like, here, just because we had a moment or a falling out or whatever doesn't mean I don't want to spend time with you, or doesn't mean that we can't try and salvage or make something of what was happening. So that's what I did. I put out an invitation of, let's, all gather together and do a thing. And that it was well received, and we gathered together and we did a thing. And then we had a side plan, which everybody knew about. Okay, we were doing this thing, but we also want to do this thing alongside of it. But this person didn't want to do that. And this person was a very intricate part of all of it. However, not that I wanted to accommodate everybody, but it was kind of like, I'm asking curiosity questions into these spaces now, as in, what can we do, or how can we move in order to achieve what it is that we want to achieve without having to force or push or make, things heavier, if that, makes sense. And it came down to a space where we were kind of almost arguing over it for a moment, and then I kind of stood up and was like, okay, here's the thing. I'm hearing that this person doesn't want to do this. We want to do this. So that should be okay. Because it's just one day. It's not like for the lifetime. If this person wants to go over here and do this, we should let them go over there and do that. And then we can go over here and do this. And everybody wins. You know what I mean? Like, would I like to have this person join us? Of course. That's what I wanted. That's what I had my heart set on. But it wasn't going to be a make or break or end of the day deal breaker. Like, it wasn't life or death. It was just a chance to make memories and an experience. And it's not like a person can't make memories or experience with this other person down the road, or all of us together down the road. So really, at the end of the day, literally at the end of the day, it turned out really well. And I'm really proud of all of us. I'm really proud of myself too, for being open to that kind of experience, and being able to maneuver like that in that experience, to allow and flow and try not to control. And what was the other thing? Something about like, what works best for, it's like a C word. I can't think of it. Collaboration? I don't know. What's best collaboration? I don't know. Either which way, like I said, by the end of the day, I could have been pissy all day. I could have let the thing eat me. I could have had a really crappy day with no good experiences in it. But instead, I was open to seeing what we could make with this, even though it was a big, nasty garbage ball of mess at the beginning. I was like, what can we make out of this? And we ended up making a beautiful little thing. We had a great time doing our thing. Sun was lovely, and then we ended up coming home and having even more of a lovely time. So by the end of the day, my heart was full and I was exhausted, and it was good. So we can't write the story, not that we can't, but we shouldn't write the complete story before it even happens. That's been one of my favorite lines lately. Isn't it? That's like getting a book, reading the first page and then reading like the last chapter or whatever, and then not caring about the in-between, when there's so much meat and juice and goodness in between and all the other chapters to build up to the end, right? So Doesn't matter any age, any stage. There's always a gift to be had, or a lesson to be learned, or an experience to be shared. With that being said, have a great day.